Hello there, very good evening and welcome to Primetime News here on Newsfirst, where the people come first. You're joining me, Naveksha Gunasekara. We start off by taking a look at your headlines for tonight. Supreme Court rules that decisions made by Gotabaya, Basil, Mahinda and several others violated the fundamental rights of the citizens. Civil groups rushed to the Inland Revenue Department to demand that tax evaders pay their dues. Namal Rajapaksa says the budget did not provide an answer to the economic crisis. Trade groups are unlikely to abandon demand for 20,000 rupee allowance. Public sector employees demand a salary hike via amendment. Cabinet decides that its approval is mandatory to appoint the SLC Interim Committee. Sports Minister says no such decision was taken at the Cabinet meeting. Chief of Selectors makes an announcement about a conspiracy surrounding cricket. In your top story tonight, a 5-judge bench of the Supreme Court has determined that 7 people, including former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, Mahinda Rajapaksa and Basil Rajapaksa, had violated the fundamental rights of the general public by misleading the economy between the years 2019 and 2022.
The fundamental rights petition was filed by Professor Mahim Mendis of the Open University of Sri Lanka, former chairman of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce Chandra Jayaratne, Julian Bowling, Jehan Kanakaratne and Transparency International Sri Lanka. The bench hearing the matter comprised of Chief Justice Jayantha Jayasuriya, Justices Bhuvanekalu Vihare, Vijit Malalgoda, Murdu Fernando and Justice Priyantha Jayawardena. Former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, former Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, former Finance Minister Basil Rajapaksa, former Secretary to the President P.V. Jayasundara, former Central Bank Governor Ajit Niwad Cabral, former Finance Secretary S.R. Atigala and former CBSO Governor Professor W.D. Lakshman were named as respondents in the petition. The Supreme Court in their decision today said that the imprudent decision of the respondents, including former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa regarding Sri Lanka's economy, had violated the trust reposed in them by the general public and therefore violated the fundamental rights of the general public. The petition filed with the Supreme Court pointed out that a tax relief of 681 billion rupees for businessmen during Gotabaya Rajapaksa's tenure as president was the main reason for Sri Lanka's economic crisis. They also pointed other instances of economic mismanagement, including the pegging of the Sri Lankan rupee against the US dollar, the delay in securing the IMF assistance, and the repayment of 500 million US dollar sovereign bonds during the forex crisis. The Supreme Court also ordered for the petitioners to be paid 150,000 rupees each. President's Counsel Upul Jayasuriya, attorneys Vishwakapiris and Sandhamal Rajapaksa were among the counsel who appeared for the petitioners. While President's counsels Ramesh De Silva, Shavendra Fernando, Chandaka Jayasundara and Gamini Marapana were among the counsel who appeared for the respondents.
The Supreme Court delivered a historic judgment today. A majority of justices on the Supreme Court today agreed with the facts presented by the petitioners and held that the arbitrary and callous decisions of the Rajapaksa regime had jeopardized the future of the innocent public of the country. This kind of despicable acts should not be tolerated in this country anymore. If the people are to reign supreme, the people's representatives must be responsible to the people. We are thankful for the fact that there is an independent judiciary in the country. With this decision, the ruling class has been given a message. They have been told how to act when managing the economy. We respectfully accept the decision given on behalf of the people by the Supreme Court. We will be happy if this decision will lead to a better future for our country.
Will Sri Lanka be able to recover from its crises by following the President's economic program? Ruling party MP Namal Rajapaksa responded to this question again today.
There is nothing to be displeased about. A majority of the content in the previous budget are back in the next budget. So a person who is in favor of the budget a year ago has no reason to be against it. However, the question is whether the proposals made in the previous budget are not practically executed and were not practically executed can be introduced again. And it can be justified. At the same time, the only option given to raise state revenue is to increase taxes and private state assets. Therefore, the only way the government sees it fit to breach the deficit is to increase taxes, sell assets and borrow more. We faced allegations in the past that we borrowed for development programs. If the borrowing of the state do not lead to the development of infrastructure, what is the purpose of borrowing? Accordingly, concerns will mount among the people as to whether this program will allow for the country to alleviate itself from the debt burden. On the other hand, if we are to increase state sector revenue, we believe that we need to develop a production-based economy and increase our exports. We need to develop the tourism sector and we need to support the entrepreneurs. However, our concern is what is the program the government will put in place to increase state revenue, generate employment opportunities, attract investments to the country, while also strengthening the rural economy to generate more jobs. The President and the government must be able to understand how to execute these budget proposals. Will these budget proposals be implemented or will they be limited to a speech? Then again, all these proposals will come into effect from April next year. That is an election year. Therefore, is this something done targeting the election or is this a genuine effort to support the people? I say this because taxes will be increased from January next year. The salaries will be increased from April next year, only for the state sector. I do not think the private sector can afford to increase salaries given the amount of taxes that are imposed. It is clear that this budget has not paved any way out of the crisis that is experienced in the country.
Civil groups protested opposite the Inland Revenue Department, demanding that taxes be obtained from those who are evading taxes in a massive and fraudulent manner. A group of trade union representatives and civil organizations jointly organized a protest opposite the Inland Revenue Department.
This budget is an election budget. What has been done here is to take from people who have little and distribute it to others and make them happy. This whole budget is an election gimmick. If taxes are charged from us, it should be used for productive work. People can't be made happy by just distributing 10,000 to state employees, giving some to the Samruddhi beneficiaries and giving some to the pensioners. Who will pay the debt when they take more loans? Ranil Wickramasinghe goes home and sleeps, but our children will have to pay this debt.
Verite Research says that the comments made in the budget speech with regard to the country's foreign reserves are not accurate. Dr. Nishan Dimel, the Executive Director of Verite Research, made this comment while sharing his thoughts on the Pathikada program.
The country's reserves were $3.5 billion in August. However, that includes the $1.2 billion swap from China. It stood at $1.5 billion. That is not an amount that could be used. Even if our reserves dropped to zero, we had that $1.5 billion. Therefore, the increase in reserves can actually be $2 billion from $1.5 billion to $3.5 billion. We already had $1.5 billion as it was something that cannot be used.
He also commented on a contradiction in the budget.
They aim to increase revenue from VAT by 60%. However, also want to maintain inflation at 5%. This is an issue. When VAT is increased, it affects inflation.
The Budget Analysis 2024 by KPMG took place in Colombo under the theme Road to Recovery.
Executive Director of Verite Research, Dr. Nishan Dimel, delivered the keynote speech at the event.
Question before us is whether we are actually on a road to recovery or we are just managing symptoms. So I think that's really the important question. And certainly, Sri Lanka is in a position and can, with the right set of policies and actions, get on a path to recovery. Many countries have been here before, and a significant number of them have managed to carve out a path to recovery in a sustainable way. Now, I think the salary increase to the public sector, the increase to pensioners, once you make those commitments, they're very hard to reverse. They're commitments that are likely to be met. But in general, our understanding and analysis of expenditure proposals is that most of them don't get implemented. Last year, we had 68% of the expenditure proposals actually didn't get implemented, and government is not even aware of what happened to them. A larger number didn't even get implemented. So budgets are often not quite designed to deliver on what is said. But I think what's important here to notice is that the pension increase, the salary increase, which are forming a large chunk of these expenditure proposals, are unlikely to be reversible. There is a huge revenue target of 45%, and there is a question of the numbers and the method by which you try to achieve it. There is a huge dependence on the expansion not only of VAT from 15 to 18%, but removing exemptions, reducing thresholds, and the increase in imports that is expected to happen. So a lot of things that are expected to make VAT carry the lion's share of the burden of this increase in revenue of 45% revenue increase that is required. So now there could have been other methods to get at revenue, other ways of taxing income, expanding the net, the tax net.
Managing Director and CEO of HNB PLC, Jonathan Allas, who were among the panelists, made the following remarks.
We need a smaller government without, the government spreading its tentacles far and wide and being everywhere and really being nowhere, right? And
Instead, it's time to let go and bring in private enterprise to Sri Lanka. Through that, instead of having, hundreds of loss-making entities under you, you let them privatize, and then you actually let them make money, start taxing them and earning revenue. We talk of all this broad basing and bringing in new people into the tax bracket, but those are sitting right underneath their own, tentacles, as it were, right? Now, last year, when we had the problem, we realized and we actually decided to cut corners. But you got one IMF payment and people have forgotten everything, right? We think we are out of it just because, we are having a relatively okay time. But the fact is you won't come out of it for the next 5 years, right? You have to keep working on it relentlessly, 24/7, if you want to come up with it. This is your last chance.
The importance of a digital economy was also stressed during the panel discussion.
Digital economy is a critical factor globally. When you're looking at our mature markets, contribution to the GDP from a digital economy point of view is crossing 40%. And the global average is about 20%. Sri Lanka, we are in a very bad stage, which is we are less than 5% from a digital economy contribution to the GDP. When you're looking at the economic issues we have, that's also we can consider as a major issue we have. We had a lot of initiatives for last 30 years or so on the technology digital side of the story, but nothing was consistent. And we align with the government and we basically discuss how should be the way forward. One of the key points we asked was, yes, this is a proposal, whether it will get implemented. That's a big question mark all of us has always, right? Challenge here is this time we took a different approach. We had digital economy policies maybe last 5 years, 3. Last 5 years, 3. I was part of all 3, never got implemented. All right. But this time we said, government, yes, you part of it, but this will be led by the industry. We will take the lead. We were very clear on that.
Opposition leader Sajid Premadasa, speaking in Parliament, pointed out that a plethora of budget proposals from the previous year are yet to be implemented.
What
The current government has not implemented a series of proposals that were presented in the 2023 budget. A recent survey by Verite Research revealed that 97% of the funds that were set aside for 50 special budget proposals are unaccounted for. In 2017, 12% of the budget details were not available. And how did that figure spike to 97% in 2023? Who is responsible for this? Foreign reserves for December 2023 is $1,898 million US, and for September 2023 it was around $3,500 million US. Inflation, which was at 51.7%, was reduced to 1.3% in 9 months. One cannot say that the special proposals in the budget did not attribute it. However, I would provide a more comprehensive response to the analysis presented by the opposition leader. The institution that was to be established to monitor the progress of implementing the 2023 budget proposals is yet to be established. The State Minister has a habit of saying that he would provide an answer now, but would provide a more comprehensive answer later. That comprehensive response is never given. And the same happened when I raised a question about the sugar tax scam. Please do not do that again. The truth is this. Of the 77 proposals that we examined, 69 are incomplete. The 2023 budget proposed to allocate 200 million rupees for the provision of sanitary facilities for 139 provincial council schools and 23 national schools. However, no such provision was made. There was no allocation of funds, and these funds were not even provided. The bill to appoint a board to examine the university programs or degrees has not even been passed. It was said that a global climate change university will be established. Yet, that is still pending. Another institution was to be established to study the history of Sri Lanka. That too has not seen the light of day. If we are to have any faith in the 2024 budget proposals, the 2023 budget proposals have to be completed. But no such thing has happened. We have the Quality Assurance Accreditation Bill, and that has been presented to the Cabinet of Ministers. Drafting legislation is not easy. I will not stand by his position. I have tried to show that this budget will bring about complete economic progress. However, I will provide responses to all his questions on Tuesday next week. The Prime Minister and myself and some MPs from the opposition back then filed a complaint with the Speaker, noting that when the budget was presented, there were flaws in them. 1,000 billion rupees was allocated from the budget for full-time teachers training programs. Only 84 billion was used, and the progress is just 18%. 2,000 million was allocated for the construction of accommodation for teachers in rural areas. Only 27 million was used, and the progress is at 1%. 4,000 was allocated for the construction of sanitary facilities at primary and secondary schools. Only 1,717 was used, and the progress is at 43%. 200 was allocated for solar power for schools with no electricity. Progress is at 28%. 30,000 million was allocated to upgrade 1,360 schools that were neglected, and only 1,207 million was used. That is only 4% of progress. I have also penned a book on budget myths and reality. I will table that book. You speak of the progress of the government, of the Prime Minister, of good governance government, who is also your current president. We are not here to repeat the mistakes of the past. We are here to rectify them and move forward. I propose a new system to specify the allocated amount and then also add the funds given to the Treasury. Incorporate a new system with financial progress and physical progress. Adopt this new system and stop misleading us.
The Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna convened a special discussion at the party headquarters today.
Several seniors of the SLPP attended the discussion chaired by leader of the SLPP, Mahinda Rajapaksa. Based on the criticism expressed regarding the budget, will the SLPP defeat the 2024 budget? Journalists inquired into the matter from MP Namal Rajapaksa.
The opposition has the responsibility to defeat the budget. If the opposition leader is a responsible person, he should hold discussions with the relevant parties and not challenge it. This budget implements several proposals centered around Colombo, which is fair. The President, the Prime Minister and the opposition leader are from Colombo. It provides some relief to the people living in urban areas centered around Colombo. The decision to stop collecting rent from those living in flats and giving them full ownership is a good thing. But the government must allocate a certain amount to maintain these. Parliament should also be informed on how the government will generate the allocated amount.
අයවැය පරාජය කරන ඉස්සෙල්ලා විපක්ෂයේ තීන්දුව කරන්න එපා. ඉතින් රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාස මහත්තයාට තමයි මේ වක්කීම තියෙන්නේ. ඉතින් සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාස මහත්තයාගේ හැසිරීම අපි බලමු. උණ සහාය දෙනවද? එතුමාට ඉස්සෙල්ලා ඒක නෑ තුමාගේ තීන්දුව කියන්නකෝ. ඊට පස්සේ අපි සාකච්ඡා කරමු.
The budget debate commenced in Parliament today.
මුදල් ඇමතිතුමා අපිව ඩිස්නිලන්තයේ විනෝද චාරිකාවක ගෙන ගියා. අද අපි ඩිස්නිලන්තයේ එළියේ ඉඳලා ඩිස්නිලන්තයේ ඇතුළ බලන්න.
Yesterday the finance minister took us on a tour to Disneyland. Today we are looking at Disneyland from the outside. The finance minister said political promises led to the country's bankruptcy. Those who led the country to bankruptcy are still in the government. It is hilarious. After the budget speech they said that they are yet to decide on whether or not they will support the budget. Whose program did the finance minister present? We didn't come here to say Ranil failed, but that the budget is a failure. We say for certain that this budget will not fulfill this purpose. We were asked to present far-sighted proposals and we will do so. He said the income will be increased by 45% to 4.1 billion rupees in 2024. This is either a dream or a joke. What are they doing? They are trying to cover this through the special commodity levy and the VAT.
මේක සිහිනයක් නෙමෙයි නා විහිළුවක්. එතකොට මොනවද මේ කරන්නේ? විශේෂ වෙළඳ භාණ්ඩයයි අගේ එකතු කිරීමේ VAT එකයි ඒ දෙක පාවිච්චි කරලා තමයි මේ හදන්නේ. මේක පියවන්න වෑයම් කරන්නේ. දැන් අහනවා ඊළඟටයි පළවෙනි මාස 3 දෙන්නත් එතන.
They are asking if these concessions are being given within the first 3 months because of the election. No, we clearly said that it is based on the income pattern. We can't print money, repay debt or pay state sector employees. President Ranil Wickremesinghe presented a revolutionary budget document yesterday. Some parties will run on slogans. That is the issue. It is time to change that. The second reason I said that this is a revolutionary budget is because it has realistic solutions to the real issues.
මූණ දිය යුතු සැබෑ ප්‍රශ්න වලට සැබෑ විදිහට උත්තර හොයලා තියෙනවා. මේකේ විප්ලවීය කම නම් අපිට නම් පේන්නේ නැහැ. මොකද්ද මේ විප්ලව?
I don't see it as revolutionary, but it has several fairy tales. Before presenting the budget proposals, there is a confession to make. The president said old mistakes must be corrected and changed. However, the new proposals do not indicate how the old mistakes will be corrected. What was proposed is to sell and impose taxes to reduce the budget deficit. What was proposed apart from that is concerning.
වැරදි නිවැරදි කිරීමට අරන් තියෙන පියවර මොනවද කියන එක කිසිසේත්ම පැහැදිලි නැහැ. රටක ආර්ථිකය කළමනාකරණය කරද්දී
It is wrong for the government to use the concept called samajivikata or balanced living when speaking on the country's economic management. When these people look at the budget, the concept called samajivikata turns into a joke. Therefore, while the concept called samajivikata is important, it is also valid to understand the unforeseen future when discussing the country's economic policies. It is not a big deal to present a budget to save the government. However, the perpetrators of these three issues maintain a wrong position. He believes that he is speaking out of the process, noting that he was handed over such a country and thus this is how he would act. However, we can agree if you say that this is a country that we all created. A person who was Prime Minister for 4 times, who has been in Parliament for 44 years and has raised his hand for his government's budgets cannot all of a sudden say that he is not aware of the balance of payment crises and the debt crises.
නියෝජිතයෙක් විදියට ඉඳලා ඇවිල්ලා එකපාරට එළියට ඇවිල්ලා balance of payment crisis එකයි debt crisis එකයි budget deficit එකයි ඕ මම දන්නේ නැහැ කියලා කියන්න බෑ ගරු සභාපතිතුමියනි.
This is a response given by the leader of the United Republic Front, Partli Champika Ranawaka, on the budget.
SLPP parliamentarian Namal Rajapaksa made an important comment on the budget. He said that many previous proposals have been reintroduced and there is concern about its implementation. At the same time, Kalutara district parliamentarian Rohit Abegunawardhana noted that raising salaries is not the issue as the cost of living has become unbearable. He calls for the reduction of prices of commodities and to provide relief to the people. In short, this budget is not realistic at all. This is a fantasy budget. They expect to collect 908 billion rupees through the VAT. However, they have only collected 680 billion rupees. The people have nothing to eat or drink because they have no proper economy. If the people have money, they will purchase goods. And when they purchase goods, the VAT increases. The VAT has been increased by 3%, and from next year it will apply to fuel and electricity as well. In addition, it will apply to another 150 commodities. But one must not assume that such an increase will lead to boost in revenue. The people have reduced their consumption. These are not realistic proposals. This is a dream. When we look at the crisis in the country, what has been offered is something to mislead the country.
පමණක් නෙවෙයි මහජනයා අතිශයින් මුලා කරන සුළුයි මේ දීලා තියෙන්නේ.
Here is UNP's response to the budget.
වර්තමානයේ පත්වී සිටින පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ නවක මන්ත්‍රීවරු 83 දෙනෙක්.
There are around 83 newly appointed members of parliament, and these members are the most unfortunate public representatives in the history of the country. Take a look at them and then look at the others. 50 million rupees is given from the decentralized fund to meet the needs of the people, and this has been happening for years. 258 million was allocated for the expenditure head of the opposition leader in 2023. Almost 250 million was given last year. For 2024, that figure is 286 million. The opposition has also been given the opportunity, and it is wise to take this country forward with justified criticism.
සාධාරණ විවේචනය කරමින් නිවැරදි පාරේ රට ගෙන යාම සඳහා අවශ්‍ය පියවර තියන්න.
The PV through Hello Rumea also convened a press conference and expressed their views on the budget proposals.
The president opened his budget speech by quoting the concept of Lord Buddha. The concept elaborates on how to balance our budget. However, in conclusion, the president created the largest budget deficit in the country's history. Therefore, in order to bridge this deficit, he proposed to borrow more and increase the borrowing ceiling from 3,900 billion rupees to 7,350 billion rupees.
වැඩි කරන්න යෝජනා කරලා. ඉතිහාසයේ ප්‍රථම වතාවට අයවැය කතාවකින් බුදුරජාණන් වහන්සේටත් කොකා පෙන්නලා මේක බුදුන් වහන්සේටත් කොකා පෙන්නු අයවැයක් විදියටයි අපි හඳුනගන්නේ.
Director General of Trade Unions to the President, Saman Ratnapriya, expressed his opinion regarding the salary increase in the 2024 budget.
These salaries were increased not by minting money, not by taking loans from anyone. A decision was taken to pay these salaries from tax revenue. Those who asked for 20,000 actually expected 5,000 rupees. They're all known to me. That is why I know the line that they were thinking very well. I also played the game for 30 years, so there is no big problem. There were some people who were happy even if they would have gotten 5,000 rupees. Politicians can take to the streets saying that they need 20,000 rupees, if not 10,000 rupees. But the people will not support it. If you take to the streets, do it carefully, because without the support of the people, no fight can be carried forward. Therefore, a salary increase of 10,000 rupees is a significant increase.
SJB MP Ashoka Besingha expressed his opinion about this year's budget proposals.
We see this budget as one that has been prepared to target the next election. They are fooling the entire population of this country. The public sector is being misled. From January, the prices of all essential and non-essential products will increase by some amount, at least by 20%. 1,224 billion tax revenue is expected to be collected by the government next year. Now, after dividing the amount of taxes collected from the people of this country, one person has to pay 4,650 rupees more in taxes next year than this year. There are 8.5 million in the labor force. When the increased amount of tax is divided among them, one person will pay 12,000 rupees per month as tax next year. Government employees are given 10,000 rupees, but 12,000 will be taken as taxes next year.
These were the views expressed by the Jatika Janabala Wegya.
Presenting the budget, President Ranil Wickremesinghe said that this is a revolutionary budget that no government has presented so far. So we have to say that a social transformation and revolution is about to happen in Sri Lanka. Here is a budget that will speed it up. If you look at it, this is a revolutionary budget. Therefore, it is okay to see this as a budget that helps a revolution. Nothing that was slashed has been reversed in this budget. Therefore, we are not prepared to let these people people lose their way and undermine the struggle to win their rights. We are taking the struggle forward. Now the people cannot use the word tax. The people are being provided relief on one hand and are heavily burdened on the other.
Chief incumbent of Mihintale Raja Mahaviharya, Venerable Dr. Vallava Hangunabave Dhammaratana Thero, also convened a press conference today and expressed his opinion regarding the budget.
It was the devil who presented the budget yesterday, and he has inherited hell. But who created this hell? Since 1948, those who followed created this hell. The president is speaking about the concept called Samajivikata in the Vyagapajya Sutra. He mentioned this over 27 times and did not say it properly. He only remembered the teachings of Lord Buddha when presenting the budget. Did he not recall the teachings of Lord Buddha on Poson Poya Day? He is the king of hell, and he is engaged in hellish activities like Batalanda and the looting of the central bank. He ruined Buddhism, taught a lesson to the Director General of Archaeology, and are the state sector employees the only ones who eat. It is fair to increase their salaries. They too survive on loans. And what about ordinary people? The goods are expensive for the common man to eat and drink. These prices are not reduced. He sleeps peacefully by selling everything. He becomes happy when he gets revenge on the people. There are plenty of taverns that will be on offer. That's what is missing now in the country. Mahinda Rajapaksa says the budget needs to be studied. They have ruled twice from 1948 to 1971. Namal Rajapaksa tells a different story. Don't come to the people and put on false media shows. This is your budget and your finance minister, so you have to beat it. You appointed this president and finance minister. Don't try to deceive the people of this country anymore. The government expects an election next year. Hold the election. They will get destroyed in the elections. We will form our own group and we will take power. Talking to the gallery and then having fun laughing and drinking tea and eating rice cannot save this country. Now they are also 75, 80 and 90 years old. You have no idea of what you're saying or doing. This man says that the country has fallen on its limbs. Now he has also fallen on his limbs. If you have fallen, you have to rise up. You made this country a hell. You are the demons and loan takers. There is nothing more to mess up in this already messed up country.
As you know already, many Sri Lankans living in rural areas are facing numerous issues behind their welcoming smiles. And how would you feel if you did not even have the basic facilities for education? Another issue that we identified today. The Gamma door-to-door teams walked across many rural lands in Sri Lanka to listen to those who have been rendered voiceless.
පොතේ පිටුවක් ඉවරයි පොත. ඊට පස්සේ ආර තව පොතකින් පිටුවක් අරගෙන අලවල අරගෙන ආවා දීතේ. ඒව තමයි ඉතින් තියෙන පාසලේ. පොත්පත් නැහැ, පැන්සල් නැහැ ළමයිට.
ඔව් ඉස්සර තිබ්බ මිලට වඩා පැන්සලක් රුපියල් 10 දැන් රුපියල් 25යි පැන්සලක්. මකන කෑල්ලක් රුපියල් 30යි 40යි.
සමුද්දේ තිබ්බ 4500ක්. ඉතින් දැන් සමුද්දේ ගන්න ගියාම තුන්ෙන් තමන් ගියේ. ඒ ගියාම මට මේ ඒ සර් කැපුවා මගේ 2500 කරා මේ 4500 ඒකම බලාපොරොත්තු දාලා දෙන්න උගන්නලා වෙන කොට දාගන්න දැම්මට උනේ ගියා දාගන්න උනේ ඒක ළඟාම ටික අවුරුදු 10ක් කොහොමද මේ සමාජ දෙන්නට උගන්නලා
What you heard were the woes of two mothers in Anuradhapura. The Gum at the door-to-door team in Anuradhapura visited the Yakkala Primary School in the Galinbindunuvava education zone, which provides primary education to 200 students who are eager to study. However, as they do not have a proper classroom, the students move under trees for their lessons. Students who are to sit for the grade 5 scholarship examination next year also follow the same process. Though the number of student enrollments increases every year, the facilities at this school have remained the same for decades.
දැන් අපි කතා වුණා අඩු ගානේ පොල්ලක ටිකක් හරි ගන්න ළමයිට ගොඩ නැගිල්ලක් හදමුද කියලා. ඉතින් ඇත්තටම මේ වගේ ගොඩක් අපහසුකම් තියාගුණත් ළමයි ඉතින් ඒ තත්ත්වෙත් ඉන්නමයි.
සත්‍යයට ඉන්න දරුවෝ මේ එළිය තියාගෙන එතකොට මහත්තයා එයාලට දැන් උගන්වන්න ගොඩක් ක්‍රියාකාරකම් තියෙනවානේ. ඒ වගේම තමයි බෝඩ් එකකවත් ඒව කරලා පෙන්නන්න අවස්ථාවක් නැහැ එයාලට.
After bidding farewell to the primary school, the Gammadda door-to-door team decided to visit the Mahasenpura village in Galinbindunuvava, where they came across this woman. She had to suspend construction of her new home at the foundation as the economic crisis worsened. Yet for a mother, the talents of her children are always her greatest treasure. Just imagine the number of parents just like this in rural villages across Sri Lanka. Another Gammadda door-to-door team began their journey from Vaunia in the northern province. In these areas, the local population is plagued by one perennial issue: lack of access to clean drinking water. As stated in the previous Gammadda reports, there are hundreds of kidney patients living in these areas. This is the Mudaliyar Kulam Roman Catholic Tamil Vidyalaya. Advanced level students are compelled to engage in their academics using the facilities provided to primary grade students. Their actions demonstrated their love for studying, and their eyes made an earnest request for better facilities to achieve more. The Gammadda door-to-door team in the Mathura district visited the Kithalagama West village in Tihagoda, which was battered by torrential rains in the recent months. For around 2 months, this village was inundated and is yet to return to its previous state. As the roads were flooded, the only mode of transportation for these people was by boat. According to the villagers, this area is home to around 300 families, and they are still struggling to survive amidst harsh conditions. The Gammadda door-to-door teams, accompanied by students from the University of Peradeniya, will continue to visit many more villages tomorrow to understand and recognize the issues that have gone unanswered.
Gammadda, made in Sri Lanka.
Newsfirst, with the people.
Domestic policy can only defeat us. Foreign policy can kill us.
We must have a strategy of what we want to achieve at the end of the day. We must know where we want to go and what we want to get out of every relationship that we have developed, bilateral or multilateral.
And we have to be free trade ports. We have to be free, and we have to be that key player in the middle of the Indian Ocean, so where we can work hard, our immediate neighbor India and our historic friend China, to get the country out of the crisis.
Sri Lankans and our education systems are understanding we are very good at a couple of things. We are very good at asking the simple question as a serious question.
There's been a footprint, Chinese footprint, that's growing larger and larger within the island, and this necessarily creates tension, because we are not just in any random geographic location, we are at the doorstep of India.
Face the Nation, Wednesday nights at 9:30 on TV1.
ICC Men's Cricket World Cup India 2023. Match between Australia versus Afghanistan. Tomorrow at 7 a.m. onwards. Repeat telecast on TV1.
Are the unions satisfied with the proposals presented in the budget? Now, these were the views expressed by various sectors.
The Sri Lanka Government Officers Trade Union Association convened a press conference and stressed that measures need to be taken to increase the salaries of the public sector even during the third reading of the budget.
VAT has been increased by 3% on goods. Also, VAT has been imposed on 155 additional goods. This increase will come into effect from January 1st. However, the salary increase given to the public servants will only come into effect from April next year. When diesel prices increase, when petrol prices increase, the expense of the public servants will also increase even more. We are giving a special reminder to the 225 members in Parliament. Those of you who shed false tears for government employees can make this decision in Parliament when it convenes again for the committee stage. At least give this salary increase from the month of January. Even though we are not satisfied with it, the trade unions have decided to go on a continuous strike action from January until the salary increase is granted.
These were the views expressed by the Ceylon Teachers Union.
In the budget presented yesterday, nothing new was presented regarding education. Not a single word about salary anomalies. What did the Minister of Education say? He said that 46 billion rupees is needed to adjust the salary anomalies and that we have requested for it in writing. All the principals believed this. But despite the decision, there is not a word regarding the salary increase.
The All Ceylon Agrarian Federation responded to the benefits received by the farmers from the budget.
Nothing significant has been done in this budget for the farmers. Just some minor things. Millions are allocated for the pension of the farmers, but there is no program or plan related to providing any relief to the farmers by allocating a separate provision for agriculture. It's just taxes over taxes. The common people of this country, including the farming and fishing community of this country, have to bear the burden of everything.
What did the fishing community get from the budget?
The attention paid to the country's fisheries sector from the 2024 budget is saddening. The entire fishing industry is in a huge crisis. Ranil Wickremesinghe's 2024 budget has not provided any relief for the burning issues of the fishermen. This is just another election budget.
රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මහත්තයා කියන්නේ මේ අයවැය තුල මැතිවරණ අයවැයක් පදනම් කරගෙන දසත සිසාරා මල්වැඩි ගහලා තියෙනවා. හැබැයි වික්‍රමසිංහ මහත්තයෝ ගහපු මල්වැඩි පුස්වැඩි මේවයි.
Sri Lanka's dollar bonds have rallied 70% this year, making them Asia's best performing trade.
The rally is due to a $3 billion bailout from the International Monetary Fund and investor hopes for a successful debt restructuring. However, some investors are turning skeptical, saying that estimated recovery values are in line with market prices. Sri Lanka still owes more than $12 billion in overseas bonds. The government has set aside $3 trillion for bond restructuring in its budget. The key for more gains in bonds lies in Sri Lanka's ability to deliver or over-deliver on its fiscal consolidation plans.
Sri Lankan Airlines has introduced self-service check-in and self-bag drop services at the Bandaranaike International Airport in Katunayake.
Issuing a statement, Sri Lankan Airlines said this initiative is set to redefine the travel experience and to minimize waiting times during peak periods, allowing passengers to seamlessly navigate through the check-in process and swiftly proceed to immigration. Passengers can now independently complete the entire check-in process, including flight check-in, seat selection, and the printing of boarding passes and bag tags. Following this, they can drop off their luggage at the self-bag drop facility, proceeding directly to the boarding gates after immigration clearance. This venture is in alignment with Sri Lankan Airlines' broader digitalization strategy, supporting the IATA Fast Travel Initiative to enhance the overall travel experience. Sri Lankan Airlines is now a regional pioneer in adopting self-service technologies for international travel.
Divisavya, the second leg of the Divisavya program to provide much-needed school books and stationery items to school children in Sri Lanka. 15th of November, Balangoda.
Dai Daruwange Anagate Winwin Divisavya. LOLC Prajasatkarak.
Domestic policy can only defeat us. Foreign policy can kill us.
We must have a strategy of what we want to achieve at the end of the day. We must know where we want to go and what we want to get out of every relationship that we have developed, bilateral or multilateral.
And we have to be free trade ports. We have to be free and we have to be that key player in the middle of the Indian Ocean. So where we can work hard, our immediate neighbor India and our historic friend China, to get the country out of the crisis.
Sri Lankans and our education systems are understanding we are very good at a couple of things. We are very good at asking the simple question as a serious question.
There's been a footprint, Chinese footprint that's growing larger and larger within the island, and this necessarily creates tension because we are not just in any random geographic location, we are at the doorstep of India.
Face the Nation, Wednesday nights at 9:30 on TV1.
ICC Men's Cricket World Cup India 2023. Match between Australia versus Afghanistan. Tomorrow at 7 a.m. onwards. Repeat telecast on TV1.
A group of depositors filed a complaint with the Financial Crimes Investigation Unit of the police demanding the return of the money invested in a system known as OnMax DT. In March 2023, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka banned 9 entities, including OnMax DT, that have conducted pyramid schemes which are prohibited in the country. The Central Bank said that in relation to the examination conducted under Section 83C of the Banking Act, it was determined that OnMax DT conducted prohibited schemes in contravention to the provisions of the Section 83C of the said Act. Accordingly, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka has requested Attorney General to consider instituting criminal proceedings in terms of the provisions of Section 83C of the Banking Act. 5 directors of OnMax DT who were arrested were remanded on the 16th of November. In more headline-making news, President Ranil Wickremesinghe has instructed the chairman of the Ministerial Subcommittee for Cricket to spearhead efforts aimed at lifting the ban imposed by the International Cricket Council on Sri Lanka cricket. This was announced by the President's Media Division.
The President's Media Division reported that it has been decided that moving forward, the approval of Cabinet will be mandatory for the appointment of any interim committees. Hours after this statement, Sports Minister Roshan Ranasinghe issued a response, noting that the PMD press release is not accurate. He said that as there was absolutely no Cabinet order or discussion with regard to the future appointments of interim committees, that statement from the President's Media Division must be corrected.
The chairman of the Sri Lanka Cricket Selection Committee, Pramodya Wickremesinghe, in a statement on Tuesday revealed that the present state of cricket in Sri Lanka is the result of a multifaceted conspiratorial program that took place over many years at multiple levels. In the statement, the chief of selectors said that he observed the fulfillment of personal ambitions as the reason behind these conspiracies. Chairman of Sri Lanka Cricket Selection Committee, Pramodya Wickremesinghe, pointed fingers at certain individuals vying for power in the Sri Lanka Cricket Board, brokers involved in match fixing, and those attempting to secure spots in the national team as contributors to the challenges faced by Sri Lankan cricket. He said that social media platforms are used as breeding grounds for these malpractices. Pramodya Wickremesinghe points out that those involved in match fixing had been investing heavily in massive social media campaigns to ensure that the players they need to secure a spot in the national team. He points out that the conspirators are using criticism on the weaknesses of the team to leave the selectors, coaches and players helpless and to build up an opinion among the general public that the current administration is not suitable. The chairman of selectors pointed out that the main objective of such criticism is to weaken the Sri Lanka cricket team. While pointing out that there are groups working to break down the mental stability of the team and the unity of the team, he said that the future of the sport depends on the discipline of the team. Pramodya Wickremesinghe points out that as the selection committee, they had tried their best to select a team that would bring victory to Sri Lanka, and adds that however the minister and the Ministry of Sports had rejected the functioning of the selection committee. He says that although the minister has ordered for the final team to be named 21 days prior, he had approved the team without any analysis. In his statement, the chairman of the selection committee said that approval for the team was always given at the last minute. He said that the ultimate result of these efforts was to undermine public confidence in the professionalism of the cricket selection committee.
President of the Appeal Court Nisanka Bandula Karunaratne and Justice Dhammika Ganepola had taken the step of recusing themselves from hearing the motion filed by Sports Minister Roshan Ranasinghe to revoke the stay order against the Interim Committee for Sri Lanka Cricket. The motion filed by the Sports Minister was called before the Appellate Court bench comprising Justices Nisanka Bandula Karunaratne and Vikram Kaluarachi. However, the motion was later moved to another court. This was after President's Counsel K. Kanagiswaran, who appeared for the Minister of Sports, objected for the matter being called up in the presence of the President of the Appeal Court, Nisanka Bandula Karunaratne. President of the Appeal Court, Nisanka Bandula Karunaratne, noted that he would recuse himself from the relevant legal proceedings on account of various criticism being levelled at him since of late by not only the Minister but also other Cabinet Ministers and Members of Parliament. Accordingly, it was decided for the application to be taken in the presence of another bench, and it was taken up in the presence of Justices Dhammika Ganepola and Sobhita Rajakaruna. It was reported that Justice Dhammika Ganepola had decided to recuse himself from the matter citing personal reasons. The petition was then referred to the President of the Court of Appeal, and it was decided to take it up in the presence of Justices D.N. Samarakon and Neil Idawala. The matter will be called up in the presence of the newly appointed bench on the 16th of November. Minister of Sports Roshan Ranasinghe arrived at the CID. According to Newsfirst correspondents, the minister left the CID premises after remaining there for over 3 hours.
A heated exchange broke out at the Alpitia Pradeshia Sabha, and the Newsfirst correspondent covering the monthly session was also obstructed from carrying out his duties.
Before the monthly meeting of the Alpitia Pradeshia Sabha began today, a group of ruling party and opposition representatives staged a protest alleging that the chairman of the Pradeshia Sabha, Karunasena Ponnaperuma of the Sri Lanka Pudujana Perumuna, is not performing in a proper manner. We came to this Pradeshia Sabha to implement the vistas of prosperity, not the vision of prosperity of Karunasena. We have come to serve the people of Alpitia. We spent 4 years of this council. We voted against the budget for all 4 years. This council has become ineffective since the day this chairman took over. However, when the meeting began under the chairmanship of Karunasena Ponnaperuma, tensions arose in the council chamber. Chairman Karunasena Ponnaperuma arranged to adjourn the meeting for 10 minutes amidst the protest. However, after 10 minutes, the chairman Karunasena Ponnaperuma did not return to resume the meeting. So the ruling party and the opposition members took steps to resume the meeting under the leadership of the vice chairman. When Karunasena Ponnaperuma returned to the chamber, a heated situation arose. Newsfirst correspondent Dhanuja Sampath, who was covering the meeting, was obstructed from performing his duties by members of the SLPP, Nalin Priyadarshana and Kamal Karyawasam. Newsfirst correspondent Dhanuja Sampath filed a complaint with the Alpitia police regarding the incident.
The bodies of the 4 members of the same family who were reported missing in the landslide in Wahinthan area in Gavaranghena, Balangoda were found this afternoon. The bodies were found following continuous search and rescue operations carried out jointly by the Army, disaster management officials and local residents. The Defence Ministry stated that the Ministry of State for Defence, Pramita Bandara Tennakon, gave instructions to the officials to carry out the final rites of the deceased at the expense of the government. US Ambassador to Sri Lanka Julie Chung visited several areas in the Ampara district in the eastern province of the country.
US Ambassador to Sri Lanka Julie Chung visited the Ampara District General Hospital and inspected the facilities. She also visited the Rajagala Archaeological Reserve in the Ampara district. In a post on X, formerly known as Twitter, the US Ambassador said that it was great to be back in Batticaloa to explore how US-Sri Lanka's 75 years of partnership is creating opportunities for Sri Lankans. In her meeting with members of the National Peace Council's local interreligious committee of Batticaloa, the US Ambassador appreciated learning about their integral role in resolving ongoing land disputes and building social cohesion in the region. The US Ambassador said that she was deeply moved by the visit to Zion Church and discussion with Pastor Roshan Mahesan about the impact of that horrific day in 2019 and support the community has received to promote healing. She also visited the statue of Eugene John Herbert, the American-born missionary and Sri Lanka's father of basketball in Batticaloa. The Chinese ambassador to Sri Lanka visited several areas in the north on the 5th of November, while the Pakistan High Commissioner to Sri Lanka visited multiple areas in Saindamarudu on the 6th of November.
And that's a wrap of Primetime News for tonight. Thanks for watching. Good night.